Hey everybody, if you've seen the channel, you know that I've been playing a Gibson Les Paul Junior Special some, which I picked up used for 900 bucks. Then as a point of comparison, I picked up this Epiphone Les Paul Special Junior. Epiphone inspired by Gibson series. It's a really nice guitar. I want to do a little review of it, and I'm also going to compare it with the Gibson. I hope you'll watch. Well, my first impressions on playing this guitar is that it's true. We are in a golden age with the guitar. This thing could give, it was pretty close to that Gibson, and it was 400 bucks. Now the Gibson brand new, the Gibson was 600 bucks brand new. I got the one I've been playing, the red one, which is beautiful, for 900. So this was 400 new, but I think you can get these for like 100 bucks used on the Guitar Center website, which is just ridiculous. And I guess I was thinking about when I was a kid, I learned on an $80 harmony. You can see me playing, trying to play that on some old videos. But when I was around 16 or 17, I often had guitars that were around 200 bucks. And that was, I would describe maybe as a lower intermediate guitar. That was 1970s dollars. But I remember when I worked out at a farm all summer one time, and I bought a $200 Ibanez Les Paul, and I also bought a $200 Alvarez Cutaway. That was actually pretty nice for 200 bucks, but they were $200 guitars, and that just put me right at the bottom of the better guitars in old Pontiac Music and Sound in Detroit, Michigan. I don't know if anyone remembers Pontiac Music and Sound, but this thing, I went to an inflation calculator. I googled 400 bucks 2021 in 1976. That would have been $83. So adjusted for inflation, in 1976, this guitar would have cost 83 bucks. And the only thing I can think of is an $83 guitar in 1976 when I was learning wouldn't have been, it would have just been infinitesimally worse than this for 80 bucks. So obviously, either the money's different or the guitars are different. This is a really nice guitar. It's a very nice guitar. It's got that TV yellow finish. Legend has it that Les Paul, that was played in black and white back in those days on TV. And black and white, you couldn't see it, so he wanted this yellow, which looks white in black and white. So anyway, it's pretty nice. The switch, some of you can look at the specs. I think this, the switch is a little bit not quite as sturdy feeling as the Gibson switch. The pots are nice. One thing I noticed is the bridge. If you look here, the bridge, it's got these two screws sticking out. I don't know if it's supposed to be like that. And when I was playing, when I really started playing it, not just like, testing it or something, but really playing it, sometimes I think the bridge was, it was either the bridge or this pickup. I would almost feel like it was going to bump down or something. The other thing I will note, you notice, is the D string and the G string. The D string and the G string are far apart, or the And then the B string and the E string are closer, and the G string and the D string are closer. So I guess I'm saying the G string and the B string are far apart. And you kind of notice that. You can see it kind of follows right up. That's the kind of thing maybe I don't think you'd see on the Gibson. And I think it affects your playing a little bit. It's not bad once you start playing, you don't really notice it. But I think it does maybe give it a kind of a rough feel when you're playing, because I'm assuming it seems like it. See, you can even see it here, the bigger space there than this. So this, having said that, it's got kind of a high action. I notice when I get up here in this part of the neck, the sustain is a little harder than that Gibson. Of course, those Gibsons have such good sustain. Overall, I mean, for the price, I'm not going to worry about that, and I'm also not going to spend a lot of time trying to get a setup or something. You know, if to me, when you buy a less expensive guitar, I know some people like to get great pickups in it and do, you know, change the electronics and the switches and the pots, and then they feel like maybe they have a Les Paul or something. But I guess if I were going to do that, I would have just bought a Les Paul. This is a good guitar. You can play it for real. That's the biggest issue to me, right there. See how close they are, and then this. That said, I actually, the E string is a little bit thin on my Gibson Les Paul Junior. And a couple places you really have to be careful playing it because it's so close to the neck. So in some ways, I think this has a better action in some parts of the neck. That's the biggest concern I would have. It's TV yellow. The finish is nice. It's a poly finish. And I've decided at this point in my life, I'm going to try to get guitars that have a nitro finish. But it's TV yellow. Look at it. It's pretty nice. You know. It's got kind of a fat headstock. It tunes pretty well. I'm not going to go on and on. Depending on what you want, I don't think you could really go wrong with this, especially if you're a younger person. But you can play rock and roll on it. I mean, it's not a toy or a beginner's guitar. I mean, it's a real guitar. I think if money's no object, you know, you might want to get the Gibson, especially if you can find one used. It definitely has some, the quality is a little better in some things. I noticed it. I thought it sustained a little better, and uh, but this thing plays pretty well. It tunes pretty well. You can tell a lot about an electric guitar by how it handles those open chords. I mean, really, because that was when I was a kid. I learned that a guitar, you'd want to play in the key of G or something, which a lot of good rock and roll uses open chords. Look at all the AC/DC songs with open chords in the key of G, or Allman Brothers like Ramblin' Man. And cheaper guitars would always have trouble, like just playing in the key of G or something, just good old rock and roll in the key of G. This one tunes pretty well. The other thing I noticed, and I think it goes to the bridge up here, when you play like a bar chord, like an A chord bar chord up here, I thought the intonation started to get a little fussy around the 12th fret. But not bad, not bad. I have a lot of affection for Epiphone because of their history, and I'm always kind of rooting for them because, they're not just, historically, they're not just a beginner company, or even like Fender Squier. I know Fender Squiers are nice. I'll have to look at one of those sometime. But I mean, Epiphone, the Beatles played Epiphone. You see pictures of Keith Richards with Epiphones, and they're all, Paul McCartney used the Epiphone, I think, on Yesterday. And, John Lennon always played an Epiphone Casino. And of course, Gibson bought the company in 1957 and kind of turned it into what we know it as today, which are Gibson clones a little bit. And hats off to Epiphone and Gibson for really trying to up the quality. I think this Epiphone by Gibson line was really an attempt to, up the quality of Epiphone and make them a stronger company within the, what they're supposed to be relative to Gibson. I haven't played any of the others. I'd like to get one of those big Epiphone hollow bodies, like a Joe Pass Epiphone. Because the Epiphone by Gibson line, it seems like they were not kidding. And this is, I'd get one now because with COVID and everything, we might be going into another guitar shortage and they sell out, or the quality control suffers. But this is I think a 2020. It's new. It's not used, but plays great. And I think it's good because I think Epiphone was really, or Gibson was really trying to make Epiphones nice. And so get one now before they change their minds, because it's a nice guitar. And like I said, if money's no object, I'd get the Gibson. I kind of prefer the nitro finish because I've gotten in my old age, so I like a nitro finish. But I'm not even sure that's a musical thing. It might just be that I envision some heirloom in the future that has that antique look that you get with lacquer that you'll never get with poly. But the finish is really nice. It looks great. I'm not much to mess around with a setup, particularly on a lower end guitar. It played pretty good out of the case. Action's a little high. I like a crisp action, but I wouldn't say I like a high action. I think that's part of the reason when you get up here and you really want to scream, you don't feel like you can play quite as smoothly. And that might be the neck, and it also might be the action. But yeah, you can't go wrong with this thing. $400, give me a break. I think they should charge more. I almost think it would be a better sell at $500 or $600, because at least $5, because it's kind of like a lot of things. If it's priced too low, people don't think it's any good, and it's definitely a $500 guitar, and a $500 guitar to me is one that should play. Just looking at price points, a $500 guitar is a guitar that you can play. You should be able to play it up and down the neck, and it's a pretty serious guitar. It should sound good and stay in tune and all that. And this is a $500 guitar. And so I definitely recommend it. I especially recommend it for any young person or anyone who wants to save a little money. But it would be a great guitar to give a young person, or really anyone who's interested in kind of learning. Like I said, if you've been playing for years and you've got a little extra money, you might want the Gibson. One thing I kind of miss about Epiphone is I wish they'd make some Epiphone guitars that aren't just clones of Gibsons. I know they do. I think they still keep the Casinos and the Sheratons and all that. But as long as you have a clone of a Gibson, this is basically, it looks just like the Gibson. You'll always feel like it's less expensive and maybe not as good as the Gibson. So as good as these guitars ever might be, they're like a kind of a clone of a Gibson guitar, down to pretty close details. And so you're always going to feel like, well, I might as well just get the Gibson. And in fact, that's kind of true if you've got the extra money laying around. So I wish Epiphone would start kicking out some, really good guitars of their own design. I know they keep up some of their classic guitars, and that's great. Like I said, I've never played a Casino, but John Lennon played one. Enough said, Keith Richards used to play those old Epiphone hollow bodies. You can see him in that early footage, and it was definitely a quintess, one of the great rock and roll guitars of the early 60s and the 50s. So, but you can't go $400. Give me a break. It's a nice guitar. Like I said, I might find somebody I want to give it to. Because if I could return it, I guess. I don't know if you're allowed to say that. I could return it within the return day period, or I could sell it. But they're selling these things. They're selling these on Guitar Center's website for like $125 used. I mean, so I don't think used you're going to get much for these. Once it stops being new, the price is going to drop way down. And I might give it to somebody. So I don't really need it. I wanted to review it and try it. But I'm always rooting for Epiphone, and I think they're doing well. I actually think they should raise the price. Not only I think it's worth it, but I think it sends a message. Hey, this is a good guitar. It should be at least $500. I'm not complaining, but nice. Definitely recommend. I mean, $400, you really can't go wrong. And this would be one thing I worried about a little bit. I worried if I played it a lot, would I start to have more problems? That's the other thing. I play a lot. I don't play like all night long in bars like I used to. That's what really beats up a guitar. Actually makes a guitar good in a lot of ways too, but it'll wear out. But even just playing it, really like, adult opening up and playing it, I started to notice that bridge was kind of bumping around a little bit. And I started to think maybe if you played this a lot, you might. But for $400, I'm sure you're going to get your money out of it. And quite frankly, it probably will last a good long time. But it's also a guitar you buy to play and learn on. It's not necessarily, if you want a guitar that's going to be around for 50 years and an heirloom, then definitely buy the Gibson. So it's one meant to be played, and play it. And if you play it for a couple years and it starts to wear out, you got your money's worth out of it and get another one. Definitely, hats off to Epiphone and Gibson. I think they did a nice job on this, really. Yeah, and that's a good. I guess the Masterbuilt was a really good. But I have to say, I tried a couple Epiphones a few years ago. I was looking at acoustics, and I thought, well, I went and tried the best Epiphone in the local Guitar Center, and it was just noticeably not as good as a nice Taylor 100 level guitar. The other final thing I wanted to say is, sometimes these companies that they really try to make their less expensive guitars really good. I know I heard that about Squier, that sometimes they actually are really worried about quality control on Squiers and things, because they want those guitars. And Taylor, like that, I think it was Bob Taylor said, they really want their 100 level guitars, like the 100, those 114s and 214s. Those are some of the best guitars you can get for the money out of Taylor. And they want you, when people buy those, they want them to be really good. You know, and in some ways, everybody knows if you get one of the really expensive Taylors, it's supposed to be great. But they really want those 100 and 200 level guitars at that price point to be outstanding. And they really focus a lot on quality. And for sort of the not as expensive guitars, and it seems like maybe that's what Epiphone's doing here. They're saying this is a low-cost guitar, relatively speaking, but we're going to make sure it's a damn good guitar for you to play. And I think they did a nice job. I can't say enough good things about it, particularly, you know, for any player that wants to spend $400 on a guitar. Buy a used one for $100. Oh my God. You know, find a used one if money. I mean, you really couldn't go wrong. I'd play it to make sure it wasn't messed up. A Guitar Center, when I looked, had some for $125. Used Epiphone Les Paul Junior Special. I'm assuming they were Epiphone inspired by Gibson. This is an Epiphone inspired by Gibson. It's really nice. But can't go wrong. Buy it for someone for Christmas. You know, be a great student guitar. And one you could play. I mean, you could play this out, really. But definitely would be a great, because a student guitar, you don't want to buy some piece of junk for somebody because you're just shooting them in the foot, you know. And this is a good guitar. I mean, it's a nice guitar. If you got several hundred extra bucks beyond, I'd go with the Gibson. Or if you're really wanting something really nice that you can have for years. And it definitely has some higher quality in some components and things. I think I like the bridge better on the Gibson for sure. This one, those pins stick out. See that? Nice. Well, God bless you. I just wanted to share that. Thanks.